What is up, YouTube? It has been a really exciting week for all of us photographers and videographers out there since Canon released a new camera, which is like the best camera since the last decade, Canon R5. It's the most talked about, rumored, and hyped camera out of all the cameras that I just know. So now, when it's finally here and all the details and all the specifications are finally given to us, we can finally take a look at it and talk about some things that really matter. So before I even start, I would like to say that I pre-ordered the camera. I hope it's gonna be as good as it seems, but we are still missing out on some things because as of now, nobody really reviewed the camera. The only reviews we've seen are the sponsored videos by Canon ambassadors. But there are some things that I noticed, and I went through some specs that Canon gave us, and some things that we can think and assume would be good, weird, different, or not good, or issues in this camera. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. What's up guys, my name is Roman and I make videos about gear review, videography, photography, travel films, you name it. So if you're into this, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video as easy as this. Bing! Okay, done. So first thing that I would like to address is what people are saying about overheating issue. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be an issue. As per Canon, it's only going to be happening after 20 minutes of recording time of 8K or 25 minutes recording 4K 120. Which, how many of you will be recording 20 minutes straight of 8K? Seriously. Like, why would you need that? Like, I don't even think I'm going to be using 8K even once. Maybe just to try it out and done. You don't even have that much computing power to process the videos. How are you going to edit 8K? By the way, you can go ahead and watch Peter McKinnon's video about the camera, and he posted the video in 8K. You can switch the toggle from 8K to 4K, back to 8K, and see if you see any difference. No, you won't, because you don't have a monitor that plays in 8K. Yeah, it's kind of future-proof, and it's cool for this camera to have it, but it's kind of useless. I kind of see it more for photographers who can screen grab a photo, because 8K is 30 megapixel photo. So you can record 8K raw. It's kind of like a raw image of 30 megapixels. So you can screen grab and here's your 30 megapixel photo. That's awesome. I mean, maybe for that one project, if somebody will request, you need 8K, yeah, I'll shoot 8K. Or if you have to crop in digitally, like a lot, then yeah, 8K is useful. But still, I don't see myself recording for a whole 20 minutes or 4K for 25 minutes. Look, if you're shooting 4K 120, that is slow motion. How many seconds of slow motion you need? You'll shoot maybe like 5-10 seconds and then slow it down. That's it. So I don't think they're gonna be actual overheating issue. But yeah, imagine it's a tiny little camera. It doesn't have any fans. It's not a cinema camera. It's a lot of power that's going to a camera. It's gonna overheat. So I'm sure Canon had to state it and had to be clear about it. But I don't think we're gonna be actually running into these issues. But again, we'll have to see and play with an actual camera, and I will be for sure reviewing this. And you will see it in my next videos. Another thing about 8K, think about how much memory it will take. And that's coming to a second issue. You will have to use CF Express cards to record 8K or 4K 120. CF Express cards, look up the prices on those. They're like $500. It's 256 gigs is like 500 bucks. Or $400 is like some kind of off-brand. Seriously, like, how much data is that? Think about all your backups as well. You have to buy your hard drives. Then your computer is just gonna blow up, and like all the processing power that's gonna go into it is just gonna be insane. And then the last thing, 1 minute of a video is gonna be like 20 gigs of memory. So yeah, that's that. Just think about it. Another thing you should think about before buying this camera is low light capabilities and dynamic range. So Canon stated that dynamic range is going to be one number up from the R, which is not a lot. I don't know, like, you guys tell me if one number up dynamic range is higher, is like 14 dynamic range stops or something like that. Is it a lot or not so much? And then again, it's a 45 megapixel sensor, and as we know, the lower the megapixel count, the camera is better in low light, and here we have all 45 megapixel. I wonder how it's gonna perform in low light and how is the dynamic range gonna be. But we will only know when we try out this camera. Now here's a really interesting thing, and it's kind of weird to me. So if you look at the video modes, you cannot shoot 1080, 120 frames per second. Like, You can do 4K 120 C-Log, you can do 8K RAW, but you can't do 120 1080. It just doesn't make sense. It's not like I about it, but you kind of think about it. If your camera can do 8K RAW, then that's another thing. Why you can only shoot RAW in 8K, but not in any other mode? So you can't do it in 4K, you cannot do it in Full HD. RAW is only in 8K. And then your 120 is only in 4K. I don't know. I mean, I would like to have it in Full HD, just sometimes, let's say if I just shoot some smaller project for Instagram, and I don't want to use CF Express card, but I want to put it on my SD card. I would love to have an opportunity to shoot 1080, 120, write it on SD card, so I save some memory, and I can just use my SD cards, which are cheaper. I hope they'll fix this with the firmware update, because it kind of doesn't make sense. It's kind of like one of those things that kind of like to cripple when they released the EOS RP and they didn't have 24 frames per second in 1080 or 4K. That just didn't make sense. That's kind of like one of those things that I'm sure it is not technically limited, because come on, you can do 4K 120, you can do 8K RAW, and you cannot do 1080 120. It doesn't make sense. I would think they would have like 240 in 1080. I'll take that. Or even 480 in 720. Hell yeah, I would use that. Like, look at our screens on the phones. You can't see the difference. 4K, Full HD, HD, 8K. For Instagram, it doesn't matter, man. So that brought me to think about the R6. So I was like, okay, so R6 does 120 and 1080. Maybe I should just buy the R6. It's like $2,000 cheaper and has almost all the features that the R5 has. Okay, it doesn't have 8K, which I'm not gonna use. It doesn't have 4K 120. It sucks. It has 4K 60, but it has 1080 120, and you're saving so much money. And then I looked into it closer. R6 is not using all-I codec. It is using IPB. It just makes no sense, because R6 is an upgrade to the R, but then they're using the cheap codec that they use in 6D Mark II and the RP, which is IPB codec. I hope it's gonna look clean and sharp, but I can, if I watch the video, I can see the difference from 6D Mark II RP and the R. It's just much sharper on the R. IPB is just not as sharp, is not as clean, is not as high quality image. So that's that. That's kind of weird how they limited R6 codec, but then on R5, they don't have like smaller features. It's just that, like, I'm not complaining at all. I'm super happy about 4K 120. I'm not a hater for sure. I love Canon and I've been waiting for this camera for so long. I'm super excited. I still can't believe this is happening, and I pre-ordered it and it's coming so soon. But it's just some things that is to consider before buying these cameras, and some things you should know. And then the last thing I would like to mention is, since we don't have real life reviews, we don't really know much information about the roll-in shutter. We don't know how good is the IBIS. We don't know how good is dynamic range. We don't know how good is it in a low light, and all these little things we don't know until the actual camera comes out and people like us will test it out and give a real life feedback. So if you're not eager to buy this camera, if you're not as crazy as I am and went ahead and pre-ordered it, you should wait and see real life reviews and see if the camera does perform what the company promising, and then make your mind after. Anyways, I'm super excited to get this camera in my hands. I also put the links in the description of both of the cameras where you can purchase them. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any single video from me. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Peace.